Dears, good morning. The next poem in your complementary course paper titled Narratives of Resistance is Between These Lines by S. Joseph. S. Joseph is a Malayalam poet in the post-modern age. He received the Kanagasri Award from the Kerala Sahitya Academy in 2012, and that was for his poetry collection Uppande Kooval Varakkunnu. Now, regarding his biography, he was born in 1965 in Pattithanam in the Kottayam district, and we see that his poems carry the distinct flavor of those years spent in a small village in Kerala. And while we read his poems, we are also transported to a world of paddy fields, coconut palms, and that rustic atmosphere. But he raises the voice of the common man who belong to the lower rung in the society. But as we move deeper into his poetic works, we see that it is not only the beauty and life of God's own country that he captures, but very deeply he talks about a fallen world which is simmering in injustice, violence, and hypocrisy. For instance, in one of his poems, a very, very wonderful poem, My Sister's Bible. Maybe I will post it at the end of this lecture so you can read it. And in that, he talks about a world of loans and cutthroat money lenders. Then, in another poem, Identity Card, he talks about a world where love seldom triumphs over caste identity. So, Joseph's poetry is layered and shadowed, mysterious with hidden words and subtle undertones. Now, his most famous poetry collections are as follows, like Kartha Kallu, Meenkaran, Identity Card, Uppande Kooval Varakkunnu, Vellam Etra Lalithamanu. So all these are his famous poetic collections. And he worked as lecturer in Maharaja's College Ernakulam, Malayalam lecturer at Maharaja's College Ernakulam as well. So now we'll move on to his poem. Now we will be learning the English version of the poem Between These Lines. And the Malayalam version is Ee Varigalkidayil. So I'll do one thing. I'll post the Malayalam version first so that you can read it, you will understand it, and then we'll move on to the English version. Because when you learn a translated work, it is always better to first read the original version of that work. Because at times, when a work is translated, the true essence may be missing somewhere. So to get a good understanding of this work, first we'll go through the original version rendered by the poet himself.
ഈ വരികൾക്കിടയിൽ ചിലപ്പോൾ ഞാനും ചിലപ്പോൾ താങ്കളും ഇല്ലാതാകും. നാം തമ്മിൽ പരിചിതരല്ല. പട്ടണത്തിൽ വെച്ചോ കടൽ തീരത്ത് വെച്ചോ കണ്ടിട്ടുണ്ടാകാം. പാലത്തിന്റെ കൈവരിയിൽ പിടിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് താഴെയൊരാൾ ചൂണ്ടയിടുന്നത് നോക്കി നിന്നത് താങ്കളാകാം. അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഇറച്ചിയോ മരുന്നോ വാങ്ങാൻ പോകുമ്പോൾ കണ്ടിട്ടുണ്ടാകാം. നാമെല്ലാം എത്ര സാധാരണക്കാരാണ് അല്ലേ? അസാധാരണമായ കാര്യങ്ങൾ ചെയ്യാൻ ശ്രമിക്കുന്നു. താങ്കളൊരു വണ്ടി ഓടിക്കുന്നു, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ലോണെടുത്ത് ഒരു കട തുടങ്ങുന്നു, പരീക്ഷ ജയിക്കുന്നു, പാട്ടുപാടുന്നു. ഞാൻ കവിതകൾ എഴുതാൻ ശ്രമിക്കുന്നു. നമ്മുടെ ചെയ്തികൾ നമ്മേക്കാൾ നീണ്ടു നിന്നേക്കാം. എഴുത്തിനിടയിൽ വെച്ച് ഞാൻ ഇല്ലാതാകും, വായനക്കിടയിൽ വെച്ച് താങ്കളും.
Now let's move on to the English version. Between these lines, sometimes I and sometimes you may cease to exist. We are not acquainted with each other. We might have seen each other in the town or on the beach. It might be you who stood holding the railing of the bridge, watching someone angling down below. Or we must have met somewhere while going out to buy meat or medicines. We are just ordinary people, aren't we? But we try to do extraordinary things. You drive a vehicle or open a shop, making use of a loan. You pass an exam, you sing a song. I try to write poems. Our actions may outlive us. I will cease to exist in the middle of my writing, and you in the middle of your reading. Let's look at the poem a bit closer. Between these lines, sometimes I and sometimes you may cease to exist. Here the poet is talking about the uncertainty of life. Nothing is certain. The only certainty is death. We cannot predict what will happen the very next moment. So, just as we are reading this, or just as you are doing something else, any one of us may cease to exist. Then he says, we are not acquainted with each other. We might have seen each other in the town or on the beach. It might be you who stood holding the railing of the bridge, watching someone angling down below. Or we must have met somewhere while going out to buy meat or medicines. We are just ordinary people, aren't we? So, every day we step out of our house, we move on to public places, we come across many people with whom we are not acquainted. We might have seen them in the town or on the beach or in the campus or outside the campus, bus stop, anywhere. Sometimes we see people looking out into the sea, people looking up from maybe a bridge, people watching other people who go fishing. See, we are always surrounded by people doing something or the other. Sometimes we also meet people, again, with whom we are not acquainted. We meet them at the marketplace, we meet them at the medical shops, etc. So he says, we are all just ordinary people, aren't we? He's asking. We come across all such people daily when we go, when we step out of our house. But then the tone shifts. He says, but we try to do extraordinary things. See, we all are ordinary people doing ordinary course of life. But at the same time, these ordinary people are also extraordinarily great, or they are extraordinary people as well, because we are all leading this extraordinary process called life. You and me, all of us are heroes and heroines of our own life. Your story and my story will be different. Fine? and we are doing extraordinary things in our own stories. So we are the heroes and heroines of our own life. It's not that we see heroes and heroines in stories, in films, etc. But we are the gems of our life. You drive a vehicle or open a shop, making use of a loan, you pass an exam, you sing a song, I try to write poems. Our actions may outlive us. So we are doing many things. We are engaged in so many activities to excel in this process called life. So even if one day we cease to exist, we will live on through our poems, through our shops, through the other things that you have done, through other actions that you have done, etc. And then he reiterates the uncertainty of life. I will cease to exist in the middle of my writing, and you in the middle of your reading. So anything can happen to us. But in this process called life, when you get the opportunity, seize that opportunity. Do whatever you can to excel in your life. You have to study. You have to polish your talents. You have to improve yourselves. You have to help others. Be kind to others. You should try to become a better you than yesterday. So with this ordinary life, we can do extraordinary things. This short span that we get over here, make the best use of it. There is no point in fighting for useless things or over useless ideologies, going after politics or leaders who try to rift us apart. It is you after all, and your life after all. So make the best use of it, because this is short and this is crisp. And between these lines, anything can happen. And between these lines refer to this lifeline. This lifeline may cease to exist any point of time. At any point of time, your life will stop. And we know that this is particularly applicable in the times of the pandemic. We are not so sure about what will happen to us. We are gripped by this feeling of uncertainty. But again, you have this life with you at the moment. Make the best use of it. Don't simply sit and weep over what you don't have. So whatever we see around us, the institution that we learn, the other privileges that we enjoy, that is the result of somebody's actions, somebody's thoughts, somebody's ideas. They also led an ordinary life, but they thought about extraordinary things and they made it happen. So now it is your chance. Fine? So don't just sit and think about what you don't have, but make the best use of this opportunity. And in the end, nothing else matters, because this life itself is not permanent. So seize the opportunity, and with this ordinary life, do extraordinary things. So that is it, the poem between these lines. Thank you.